Right now we're going to make, whenever you're traveling, whenever you're anywhere, the impulse is to stop in an ice cream store and try it, right? Because you're all into ice cream. However, go into the ethnic markets wherever you are. If you're in a Hispanic area, go into the Hispanic food market. If you're in an Asian area, go into the Japanese or Chinese food markets and walk up and down and see what they have for dessert. You'll be amazed at the ideas that'll flow from this. I was once walking through, years ago, Bravo, the Hispanic supermarket, and they're pretty much spread out all over. And I'm walking up and down the aisle looking for something that they eat as dessert. And of course I saw guava, which I bought, and then I saw a product on the shelf called horchata. Horchata. So, horchata. So I had it in my hand and I'm trying to understand what it is. Guy walks up with a cart and I said, "Excuse me, horchata?" And his reaction was this, true story, his reaction was, "Oh." So I bought it. And I brought it back to the store, along with other things that I bought there, the guava and other things, star fruit. Anyway, I brought it back to the store, and I opened up this thing about, 25 ounces, and I opened it up, and I smelled it, and immediately I knew what it was. It was rice pudding. It's rice pudding. So I then experimented, came up with a recipe for rice pudding ice cream. It's a big seller, and that's what we'll make now.
Oh, fantastic.
What?
Great.
We have Bianca's seal of approval on it.
You are ready to go.
Okay. Rice pudding, I grew up eating rice pudding, and you can have it with or without raisins. I always liked it with raisins. So, nice expression. So, we'll add raisins because this is my ice cream. And in the store, we add raisins, and people, about a third or more than a third of the people will say, "Oh, I don't like the raisins." Oh well, there's 29 other flavors there. So we'll start with the mix.
Again, one little hint, the last thing we did was take ice cream out of the machine, so usually the gate is left open because you discharge the ice cream. Just hit the handle before you start pouring, as Jeff always does, to make sure the gate isn't open. Otherwise, all that mix is going on the floor.
I'm very guilty of that at home. Very guilty.
We'll add a little vanilla because although there's some in the mix,
Excuse me. Is that the last of our vanilla?
I don't pay for it, so I add it here. Darian is gracious enough to send this to Steve.
I'm checking to see if we have any left for the rest of the show.
I'll use it all if you want.
No, I don't
Okay.
want you to. I don't think we have enough.
And then we have horchata. The recipe I came up with for a half batch calls for 40 ounces of horchata. Each of these is 16 ounces. So 16, 32, and then half, right? Since this is a very math-savvy group here. Little cinnamon and the dreaded raisins. Okay, so...
What does horchata exactly taste like?
Come here.
Should I bring a spoon?
Come here. No.
Oh, that's smell.
Smell it. It's rice pudding.
It smells good. It smells very good.
All right. So we'll fire it up. And then we'll add our ingredients. We'll add 2 of these and a half. Anybody drink horchata here? You do?
I have the vinegar horchata, which is a mixture of vinegar, rum, and horchata.
Is this going to be a long story? I've got to work here.
No,
Okay.
no, that's all.
Some people, I hear, dilute it. They put a few teaspoons in a glass of water and mix it up. Is that,
I don't have
why would they do it that way? It's so perfect here. Sure.
I'm sure it doesn't matter, but I'm just going to ask you.
Oh, ask it.
Is there any particular reason why you don't combine all of the ingredients, meaning all of the liquids, and pour them in at the same time versus?
Good question. The question is, why don't we mix all the ingredients before we pour them into the machine? Sometimes you have to do that. If you're making my chocolate velvet or you're making Reese's, then you do have to blend them before you put them in, because although the machine is a terrific mixer, it doesn't necessarily blend. So we're going to take, and usually what she asked refers to solids or semi-solids and liquid. If you have that, sure. If it's all liquids, you can just pour it in. And even some ice creams, like if you're making Oreos, just throw the Oreos right in the machine, because the machine will grind them up and make you pieces of different sizes, which is what we want in homemade ice cream. Now we're going to add half of this. Now I have cinnamon here, which we'll do a taste test before we add the cinnamon, and we'll add those shredded raisins.
Okay, so I have another question. So I know we talked about quality of certain products.
That little
When does it
spatula that I
happen?
had here.
Salt, sugar versus vanilla versus cinnamon. When does it matter? When does it matter?
Putting different things in it. Well, I don't add salt to ice cream. That's an old myth.
Salt?
Yes, which I'll be happy to break. It's been around since my grandfather invented the machine, and before. And I can talk to executive chefs, and they'll absolutely swear that I'm crazy, and I'm not. They say, "Oh, salt is important to ice cream. It's in every recipe I've ever seen since I grew up." Why? Well, it's an important ingredient in ice cream. No, it isn't. It is in ice cream recipes because people were using this. And remember I said earlier in the class, we've got the bucket in here, and in here is the dasher that is spinning around scraping the ice cream off the walls, just like my machine and my grandfather's machine. And then ice only takes you down to 32 degrees. Rock salt takes you down much colder. That's why your oceans don't freeze. Your lakes freeze, but your oceans don't. So by putting this all together, putting the rock salt and ice in here and putting the mix in here and then closing it up, some of the rock salt got into the ice cream. It just fell into the liquid product. And now, over the next 100 years, that's why it got into recipes that ice cream should have salt. Ice cream should not have salt. It does not add to the flavor. It's like, why do we have to make Grandma's bread recipe in an 8-inch pan when I only have a 7-inch pan? Well, it's not because the recipe and that's critical to the recipe. It's because Grandma didn't own a 7-inch pan. She only owned an 8-inch pan. So this is how recipes evolve, and how a lot of unnecessary stuff evolves.
So just not sugar, but like, I mean, not salt, but sugar as well. Like, do I need to use Domino or could I use straight up?
Oh, we've had this argument so much, and I always said, because again, Jeff calls me frugal. Actually, he calls me worse names. That is an interesting one about using Domino or regular sugar. We had, after arguing for this for over 15 years, we had a chemist from Domino Sugar take the class. And he said there is a difference. Domino Sugar says on the package, pure cane sugar. It's made from sugar cane, which I have personally cut down in the Virgin Islands, and you scrape it to get the sugar out. The other stuff is corn sugar and beet sugar, mostly beet sugar. And that's what is, when you buy a bag at the supermarket and it says sugar, that's beet sugar. It doesn't have, according to this gentleman, the same freezing properties. It doesn't have the same taste. And it's true, it's not as strong a sugar taste as cane sugar is. So Jeff convinced me. I was doing it because I said, it doesn't matter if my sugar's lumpy, it's going in the machine, we'll break up the lumps. And Domino sugar doesn't get lumpy. But it makes a huge difference. And all your regular packages are going to say granulated sugar. This one says premium pure cane. It's going to cost you more. It's worth it. We're trying to make the very, very best. Back to you, Maestro.
Okay, so that's horchata. I have a half a bottle. If anybody wants it, you're welcome to it. What?
What?
Huh?
What?
Give it to Paula. If you can put it in water, she'll have it.
Okay.
That's what I said. We need rum. Me and Paula will drink it with rum.
Yeah, right. Friday afternoon.
Who? Yes.
So, you say Domino's with protein sugar, right? Sometimes they got extra fine sugar. Would it make a difference?
No, you don't need it.
No, I'm just saying, because you have to pick it up after that.
Don't.
It's all going to dissolve very easily. There's also confection. There's also bar sugar, which is finer. It makes no difference. It's all going to dissolve.
Any other questions? How come you haven't asked a question? Yeah. Soaking it all in? Okay. Any other questions? We do, yes.
I might be jumping the gun, but after you get the product out of the back freezer, whether it's a little bit runnier or a little bit thicker, when you have a runnier product, does that mean you have to get it in the freezer quicker then?
Yes, you should, because it's starting to melt.
Yeah.
The whole idea is speed. That's why we designed the machines to eject faster than any others. It's all about speed, excuse me, and consistency.
But in
So yeah,
reality,
you want to get it in that freezer very quickly.
in reality, I've always had a rolling cart. You put it by the machine, you extract your 6, 7, 8 gallons, you roll it over to the freezer and put it in. It's,
You're talking about like a chest freezer?
yeah.
Okay. So we don't really need to invest right away into that
Well,
glass freezer?
Steve will tell you his thoughts on that.
The chest freezer is designed for you to bring home frozen green beans and frozen pizzas. The work is already done. They're frozen. So they're already at 5 below, thereabouts, when you bring them home from the supermarket. You throw them into the 10 below chest freezer, which only costs $900, and I highly recommend them when you first start because you're on a very tight budget. You're taking the frozen pizza and putting it into 10 below. No work has to be done by the freezer. It probably won't even come on to maintain it. You're taking 22, 21 degree warm ice cream, quote unquote warm ice cream, and putting it into a chest freezer that was designed to hold already frozen product, and you're asking it to freeze it down to 10 below. It will do it, but it will only do it if we've got 3 levels of the chest freezer, bottom, middle, high. So today we can fill the bottom level with ice cream, and then we can't make any more ice cream. Because if we put in a second level, that box is going up to 40 degrees and everything melts, and then eventually freezes down and you've got a horrible product. So what do? You buy a second chest freezer for $900. Now you can put a bottom level down here and a bottom level over there, and you're finished for the day. Tomorrow you can fill the middle level and the middle level. And tomorrow, or the day after that, you can fill the upper level and the upper level, and that's your inventory. That works great until your volume goes up so fast that you need more than those 2 chest freezers, and it takes you 3 days to fill them completely. So when you get to that point, sales cures everything. It's true in any business, whether it's batch freezers or refrigerators or cars. If you've got great sales, it solves all your problems. So when you have great sales in your business, it's not going to be I don't have room in my 800 square foot store for a third chest freezer, or it's not going to be, I can't afford a third chest freezer. It's going to be, I don't have room for it. So at that point, you buy a machine that is designed to take the heat out of the ice cream. It goes to 25 below zero. It doesn't sit at 25 below. It is pulling down to that. So if I load this up, I always use the example of hot soup. People can relate to hot soup. So if you make 3 gallons of grandma's hot soup and put it in here at 25 below, this box will never go warmer than 15 below zero. It's so powerful, it's sucking the heat out. So at some point in time, your business gets bigger, you buy this. This is a lot more money than $900, but you can afford it because you're being held back by not having inventory. The more inventory you have, the more you can sell. It's not customers, it's inventory. So we can freeze it down to 25 below in probably about 7-8 hours. And we can either leave it here as inventory, or better yet, you already own those 2 chest freezers over there. It's now down to 25 below zero. You couldn't scoop it with a hammer and chisel. We move it out of here, put it in our chest freezer, and that is our inventory. We've just increased our inventory, and then I make more ice cream and freeze it. So this is going to facilitate having more inventory even faster than another batch freezer.
He's ready.
Okay, it's all Jeff.
Someone asked, how do we know it's ready? What I teach in my class is when you do this, if it maintains a peak in the bottom of the barrel, it's ready. If it oozes down, not quite ready. Although you could take it then too, but I like it a little firmer. Pretty much there, 30 seconds and we're good to go.
If you got 30 seconds left, you can shut the refrigeration off.
Good.
You should.
I don't pay for the electric here. Okay, once again, what are we going to do?
Turn off the freezer.
And what are we going to do then?
Turn it off. Stop the...
Listen
Listen.
for the compressor to go off. Very important. It'll always go up, but just get in the habit.
If you don't do this, I get the phone call, Christy gets the phone call that my machine stopped. That's what we hear. My machine stopped.
Yeah.
And then we have to go back to when did it last run right and all this, and we find out that they forgot to turn off the refrigeration switch, and it just kept getting colder and colder while they're pulling the product out, and so everything freezes up. So that's a very simple trick of Jeff's. Just wait till you hear the compressor go off.
A little thing that Steve had taught me with raisins, although I love raisins and they're very good, but Steve had done what my daughter calls a cereal ice cream with grape nuts and golden raisins. But he took the raisins and he put them in the dairy mix. He took some of that mix out, put it into a container, and all the raisins he was going to use for his formula, he put them in there and let it sit for a couple of days. Those raisins plumped up with that dairy mix and became so juicy. And now
So what?
Juicy.
Oh,
And I like it that way. The raisins like this are very good, but they're still in a raisin shape and form. You know, they're on the pruny side and chewier. So just another thought. I know, your ice cream though.
I learned that one from my uncle. He used to make rum raisin ice cream. He also loved his rum. And so Uncle June, Emery Thompson Jr., and they called him June. That was fun when people would come to visit. Oh, I'm going to meet with June today. And they said, what do you want? That was Uncle June. Uncle June used to take the raisins to make rum raisin ice cream and pour a bottle of Bacardi rum over them. And he said you then had to put the whole thing in the refrigerator, and for the next 5 days, let it sit there and let them plump up. And every evening when you come home, you should take a little bit and taste it to see how they're doing. Well, by the time 4.5 days was gone, he'd taken so many little tastes of it, there was no more raisins or rum to make the rum raisin ice cream. But it made good sense.